Brittany, honey, I told my husband I'm going out to see you. If he asks, don't spill the beans. Brittany's chirpy voice rang through the phone. Only then did the full weight of reality crash down on me. I had truly been reborn. In my past life, Brittany, my player best friend, couldn't resist the thrill of going out, even 6 months pregnant. I'd cautiously advised her, nightclubs are noisy and chaotic, and frequent intimacy isn't good for the baby. She'd snapped back, telling me to mind my own business. No one, not even her husband, could control her, and as her friend, I should be supporting her, not lecturing. Later, her recklessness went too far. She suffered a ruptured ectopic pregnancy, and the baby was lost right there in the club bathroom. At the hospital, she sobbed and nestled into her simple-minded husband's arms, tearfully accusing me. Emily insisted I go to the bar with her. She said she'd break off our friendship if I didn't. You know, honey, she's my only friend. And just like that, her single-celled brain of a husband actually pulled out a knife and stabbed me to death right in the hospital. After I died, my soul didn't dissipate. I watched as Brittany piled all the blame onto me. My parents were verbally abused by Brittany's parents and in-laws, who pointed fingers and screamed. And you call yourselves educators? You raised a shameless, morally corrupt daughter. They even caused a scene at my parents' school, hanging banners, writing defamatory posters, and accosting parents, ranting, "These two are teachers, but look at the daughter they raised. So indecent. She goes to nightclubs every day and even drags our pregnant daughter-in-law along, causing a miscarriage of her 6-month-old baby. How dare they educate the flowers of our nation with a daughter like that?" In the end, to save face, the school was forced to fire my parents. Unable to bear the humiliation, my parents both committed suicide at home. My parents were honest, hardworking teachers, dedicated to nurturing young minds, yet they met such a tragic end. My heart filled with burning hatred, and I clenched my fists so tightly that my fingernails dug deep into my palms, but I felt no pain. This time, I absolutely would not repeat the same mistakes. I would make that woman pay the price she deserved. "Don't worry, Brittany. When have I ever let you down?" I said into the phone, my voice betraying none of the turmoil inside. After hanging up, I rushed to the mobile carrier store and got a supplementary SIM card. Timing it perfectly, I sent text messages to Brittany's husband, Kevin, and her in-laws. "Your wife is cheating on you at a nightclub. Go to 99, 7-Star Road if you don't believe me. Momo Bar, room 701. Brittany is cheating at a nightclub. Address, 99, 7-Star Road, Momo Bar, room 701. Brittany's in-laws and Kevin knew I was close to Brittany. They'd called me before when they couldn't reach her, so I had their contact information. I remembered clearly that Momo Bar was where Brittany had arranged her hookup in my previous life. Brittany always used me as her alibi, saying she was out with me. So, this time, I arranged dinner with a few colleagues. I even made sure to take group photos and post them on social media to prevent Brittany from desperately trying to bite back and implicate me. Ethan, a male colleague, suggested going to a bar after our enjoyable dinner. This was exactly what I had hoped for when I invited him. He was a regular at bars, often posting photos on social media. I readily suggested Momo Bar, the very place Brittany was planning her rendezvous. Brittany's husband, Kevin, was a simple, honest IT guy, awkward in conversation and utterly love-struck. He often worked overtime and handed over his entire paycheck to Brittany. Brittany, on the other hand, had always possessed a certain allure. She knew how to play the damsel in distress, but her personality was a stark contrast to her innocent facade. She once confided in me that she chose Kevin because he was docile and obedient. I truly couldn't comprehend why Brittany would treat me this way. In my past life, I genuinely considered her my sister. Any good fortune that came my way, she was the first person I thought of. We even joined the same company. I always included her in everything, helping her navigate office politics and work challenges. During holidays and festivals, I showered her with gifts and red envelopes. On her birthday, I was more attentive than her own husband, meticulously preparing gifts she desired. Even if she wanted high-end skincare that was many times my salary, I would grit my teeth, tighten my belt, and buy it for her. It was only after my tragic death that I understood some people are like rats in the gutter, eternally selfish, always thinking only of themselves. Momo Bar had a dance floor on the first floor and private rooms on the second, but the entire structure was cylindrical, allowing a clear view of the second-floor room entrances and hallways from the first floor. Extremely vibrant lights flashed, and mature men and women danced wildly. I sat at the bar, mojito in hand, positioned directly opposite room 701's entrance, eagerly anticipating the drama to unfold. I chatted casually with my colleagues, occasionally complaining about our idiotic boss. Suddenly, a middle-aged woman with a ferocious expression appeared at the entrance of a second-floor room, her voice booming even louder than the bar music. "You slut. You're pregnant and still can't behave yourself, giving my son a green hat. I'll beat you to death, you shameless hussy." She yanked the hair of a woman wearing a low-cut white dress, her pregnant belly quite obvious, her legs adorned with black lace-trimmed stockings. Her hand didn't stop, slapping the scantily clad woman's face relentlessly. The white dress was clearly thrown on hastily because besides her head, one arm also protruded from the neckline, revealing a snowy shoulder. Then came the crisp slap, slap, slap. Oh, what beautiful sounds. Brittany's husband, Kevin, emerged from the room behind, wearing a plain, unfashionable plaid shirt, his face bruised, clearly from a fight. His clothes were disheveled. He tried to pull back the furious middle-aged woman. "Mom, stop hitting her. Brittany is pregnant." I suppressed a smile, secretly turning on my phone's camera, wanting to record this glorious scene. My colleagues also wore gossipy expressions, staring intently at the magnified scene on their phone screens. "Wait, isn't that Brittany?" Ethan exclaimed in surprise. "Emily, you're close to her. Check if it is." "Damn, it is. That gold necklace on her neck, she was showing it off to me just a few days ago." Another female colleague recognized Brittany. "Wow, who knew she looked so innocent but played so wild in private?" My colleagues whispered in amazement. The bar fell into a rare moment of silence as the live band prepared to take the stage. In the video, Brittany heard Kevin's words and seemed to grab onto them like a lifeline. She desperately broke free from Kevin's mother's grasp and threw herself into Kevin's arms. Honey, I didn't betray you. Believe me." Brittany wept, trying to evoke her husband's sympathy. Suddenly, her eyes fixed on something. Through the transparent glass railing, she locked eyes with me, sitting calmly at the bar. Then, I saw Brittany's eyes dart around, clearly scheming something. The next second, her fingers subtly moved, pointing in my direction. I vaguely heard her say, "Honey, it's Emily. Emily insisted on bringing me here. You know, I told you, I didn't expect her to bring me to a place like this." She was throwing the blame on me again, but this time, I held the cards. Kevin's tenderness and affection were reserved solely for Brittany. He treated me differently. Otherwise, he wouldn't have stabbed me in my past life. Besides, Brittany always claimed to be out with me. He must have harbored a lot of resentment already. Hearing Brittany's words, Kevin's face darkened ominously. Kevin's parents took the lead, stomping over aggressively and standing, hands on hips, pointing at my face, yelling, "You're Emily? I heard your parents are senior teachers. How could they raise such a shameless woman like you? Leading our Brittany to a place like this, you're the one who corrupted her. You're a loose woman, like mother, like daughter. Your parents must be trash too." This old woman's mouth was truly foul. Insulting me was one thing, but cursing my parents was something I couldn't tolerate. Brittany had managed to get dressed and, supported by her husband, stood not far away, her eyes gleaming with malicious glee. Brittany never knew the meaning of guilt. After all, lies cost nothing. Just as I was about to retort, my colleague Ethan spoke up first. "Did you eat shit for dinner? Your mouth stinks. Emily has been with us all day today." The old woman's finger trembled as she cursed. "Who are you to her? Protecting her like that? Birds of a feather flock together. Shameless trash." Various vulgar curses and malicious speculations spewed from the old woman's mouth like filth. Ethan was visibly enraged, rolling up his sleeves, ready to fight. But the old woman beat him to it, collapsing to the floor and starting to roll around, wailing, "What did I do to deserve this? My daughter-in-law corrupted, and now they want to hit me? Woe is me." People in the bar were all watching the spectacle. The background music played softly, and the old woman's wails echoed loudest. Brittany leaned weakly into Kevin's arms, covering her face with her hands and sobbing, "Emily, I told you I didn't want to come to a place like this, but you insisted I come with you, right?" In the past, I would have covered for Brittany without hesitation. But now, I wished Brittany 100 diseases, unbearable pain, a life worse than death, and endless misfortune. I stopped Ethan, who was about to lose his temper, from acting. It wasn't worth getting physical with someone so shameless. Then I turned to Brittany. Her face was completely devoid of panic. She genuinely believed I would still help her. She had created such an ugly scene for me, yet showed not a shred of remorse. Humph. I used to think best friend was a relationship, but it turned out to be just a label. I spoke slowly, deliberately. Brittany did ask me today to cover for her, but I advised her against it, and she didn't listen. After a pause, I looked directly into Brittany's eyes and calmly asked, "Brittany, are we not friends of many years? Are you sure you want to push all the blame onto me?" Brittany's eyes flickered, avoiding my gaze. Hearing my question, she nervously clutched Kevin's arm. "Emily, what nonsense are you talking about? When did I ask you to cover for me? It was clearly you who wanted to go out, and I was just covering for you. We are friends. How can you slander me like this? Knowing I'm pregnant, you still brought me to a place like this, almost causing me to." Brittany's husband loved her, and her in-laws protected her because of the baby. Brittany usually put on a good act, so they all believed her. If I couldn't clear things up, their family would be like tentacles, dragging me into a bottomless pit of mud. I had repeatedly advised Brittany to stop, but some people truly wouldn't shed tears until they saw their own coffin. I sneered, "Is that so, Brittany? When we spoke on the phone today, I recorded it. Are you sure you want me to play it publicly to prove my innocence?" A flicker of panic flashed in Brittany's eyes. She rushed at me, yelling, "What recording? You're making things up. Honey, believe me. Emily is just jealous of me marrying such a good man like you. So she wants to frame me again and again." She even broke free from Kevin's embrace and tried to snatch the phone I was holding up. At that critical moment, Ethan stepped in front of me, saying, "If it's fake, why are you panicking?" I had long been utterly disappointed in Brittany and knew she was an ungrateful viper. Taking the opportunity, I played the recording, turning the volume to maximum. My colleague, Luna, always eager for drama, somehow produced a microphone and held it to my phone's speaker. Instantly, Brittany's shameless words reverberated throughout the bar. "Oh, Emily, it's okay. My husband is useless. I really can't help it. I'll be careful, don't worry. If they call you, just say I'm with you. Brittany, I can help you this time, but I want to say this is the last time. You're pregnant. You shouldn't be seeking thrills. Just hold on for now. If your husband is useless, just divorce him. Cheating in marriage is a moral flaw." My reply was met with Brittany's dissatisfaction and subtle boasting. "Emily, take care of yourself first. My husband loves me. He won't blame me even if he knows." I played it once through, then a second time, a smirk playing on my lips. "Brittany, did I or did I not advise you not to do such a shameless thing?" The audio clip was short, just a few sentences. Kevin's face flushed crimson, then paled, then flushed again. Veins throbbed on his forehead, as if he was desperately suppressing something. Everyone around was watching the show, gossip being human nature. Some had even pulled out their phones, recording videos. "Honey, don't believe her. I never said any of that. It's all AI. Emily deliberately used AI to frame me. You have to believe." Before Brittany could finish her excuses, Kevin landed a sharp slap across her face. Brittany's mother-in-law, also consumed by rage, forgot about her rolling on the floor. She stood up, grabbed Brittany's arm, and slapped. Another resounding slap. Brittany's face swelled up. She was crying, her previous delicate tears replaced by the pathetic sobs of a clown. Kevin, thin-skinned, couldn't bear being called useless by his wife in public. No man could accept that. Moreover, being watched by so many onlookers made him feel deeply humiliated. He turned to leave abruptly, but then Brittany's scream from behind stopped him in his tracks. "Honey, my stomach hurts. The baby, the baby." Brittany clutched her belly, and blood stained her pure white dress, bright red blood flowing down her thighs. After a flurry of panic, Brittany was rushed to the hospital by ambulance. I thank my colleagues, especially Ethan and Luna, for speaking up for me today. They waved it off, saying, "It's nothing. We've been annoyed with Brittany for a long time. Last time, I wore a new dress and she secretly told people I was trying to seduce the boss. And when we were working on the same project, she used her pregnancy as an excuse to avoid computers and dumped everything on me. In the end, she used her silver tongue to take all the credit in front of the boss." Exactly. Karma is real. That bitch finally messed up. Luna hummed a little tune, her face filled with the joy of revenge. I chuckled. No wonder she had been so eager to provide the microphone. Suddenly, Luna changed the subject, speaking a little cautiously. "Emily, do you remember the whistleblower incident during your promotion period? Back then, it was a sure thing you'd become editor-in-chief, but the letter that reported you was written by Brittany. Director Leong from the publishing department is my uncle. She told me herself. Back then, seeing you always defending Brittany, I deliberately didn't tell you. I'm sorry. I had joined the publishing house as an editor right after graduation. I had worked diligently for 5 or 6 years, nurturing several best-selling authors. Recently, the company announced they wanted to promote me to editor-in-chief. The process had already reached the public announcement stage, but unexpectedly, a whistleblower letter derailed everything. I never imagined that the person who stabbed me in the back was the best friend I had always supported. Brittany couldn't find a decent job for 3 years after graduation. After I gained a foothold in the publishing house, I used an internal recommendation to get her hired as my assistant. I always took care of her, barely making her do any work, just helping me review manuscripts and do simple communication with authors. Yet, the person I cherished and trusted most had stabbed me in the back so cruelly. But thinking about how she had shifted the blame onto me in my past life without a hint of guilt, and how she hadn't even tried to stop her family from harassing my parents, the whistleblower letter seemed to be the least of her despicable acts. A person doesn't suddenly rot. The signs are always there. After parting with my colleagues, I went home. It was an older neighborhood. After I started earning money, I bought an apartment near my parents' house. The 80-square-meter home was decorated warmly. In the days of our close friendship with Brittany, I had even kept a bedroom just for her. Opening the front door, a pair of expensive Chanel slippers and a pair of ordinary-looking slippers were placed side by side. Yes, the expensive pair was the one I bought for Brittany. She had said she loved them. Looking at those shoes now, I truly felt like the biggest idiot in the world. I picked up my phone and took a picture. Tomorrow, I would put them up for sale on Shinyu, a second-hand goods platform. Throwing them away would be too wasteful. I had to recoup some of my losses. I vowed to myself that tomorrow, I would really declutter my home, completely severing all ties with Brittany's past. The next day at work, Brittany was absent. Someone from HR subtly asked me if I wanted to apply for sick leave for Brittany. My kindness to Brittany was well known in the company. HR wanted to curry favor with me. I immediately said, "Mark it as absence. She's not a child anymore. I can't keep cleaning up her messes." I wasn't the me of the past. I would no longer use my goodwill to smooth things over for Brittany. For 2 days in a row, Brittany remained absent. I went to work as usual. When I didn't feel like cooking, I would go to my parents' house for dinner, basking in their love. Humming a little tune, I was on my way home when Brittany called. I let the phone ring twice before answering. Brittany's persistence intrigued me. I wanted to hear what kind of good things she could possibly say. "Emily, why didn't you cover for me? And was it you who sent those messages to my husband and in-laws? You're the only one who knew where I was. Do you even know that my husband wants a divorce because of you? How could you be so vicious? My baby is gone. Are you happy now? You better call my husband right now and tell him you were the one who insisted I go. Otherwise, I'll break off our friendship with you. And I won't take that job you recommended anymore. Brittany unloaded a barrage of accusations, but they were completely ineffective. Break off our friendship? That's exactly what I wanted. The job was her own choice. I wasn't her parent. She could take it or leave it. I took a deep breath and said, "Are you Brittany?" For a moment, I thought you were just a rabid dog barking on the phone. Yes, I sent the messages. What are you going to do about it? And I never befriend canines. I'll carry a dog-beating stick with me from now on whenever I see you. If you think I'm going to take the blame for you, you're dreaming. Brittany shrieked in exasperated rage. I calmly moved the phone away from my ear. Ignoring her shrew-like curses and insults, I calmly hung up. Her meaningless abuse couldn't hurt me. As for her blaming me for losing her baby, I absolutely refused to accept that. I would not let anyone who directly or indirectly caused the deaths of me and my family in my past life get away with it. The video of Brittany being caught cheating in the bar and her slander against me being debunked by my recording had been circulating online. For almost 3 days, Brittany had probably lost her baby and just woken up, so she hadn't had time to pay attention to the internet. Yes, I was the one who released it. In my past life, they used public opinion to drive my parents to their deaths. Now, I would let them experience the power of public opinion themselves. This time, my target was Brittany's husband, Kevin. To deal with a man who was somewhat insecure, honest, prone to internal conflict, and single-minded, the best approach was to trample on his self-esteem and make him realize that the happiness he thought he had was just an illusion. This would break him, cause him pain. If he didn't receive timely emotional support, or if he was constantly provoked, he would fall into depression. When all the pressure piled up, even a light feather could be the last straw that broke the camel's back. What I needed to do was constantly remind him and constantly provoke him. But I also needed to be wary of his emotional backlash. I had been secretly monitoring Brittany's movements. Her psychological resilience was quite poor. Shortly after our phone call, she quickly deleted all her social media accounts. But the comments under her husband's company's social media account were truly a sight to behold. There were mocking comments, and there were pitying comments, maybe a 50-50 split. But undeniably, the fact that he was cuckolded and Brittany was unfaithful had gone viral online. However, 2 weeks of calm passed. On a day that should have been celebratory for me, Brittany launched her counterattack. That day, I got off work early to have dinner at my parents' house. It was my mother's birthday, but before I even entered the building, I found the hallway splattered with red paint. Poor parenting, betrayal of trust, whole family trash. These 12 characters, written in red paint on the wall, made the entire hallway feel eerily sinister. My heart pounded with anxiety. I took out my keys and frantically unlocked the door. I was terrified that the fate I had barely escaped would transfer to my beloved parents. Thankfully, the moment the door opened, my parents were sitting safely on the sofa. I saw a flash of joy in their eyes when they saw me. "Emily, you're back. Mom made your favorite braised pork belly. Go wash your hands and come eat," my mother said gently. My eyes welled up with tears. I stepped forward and hugged my mother tightly. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. It's so good. My father stood up and embraced both of us, saying, "Honey, your parents will always be your strong support. We know about what happened between you and Brittany. You did the right thing." I felt a surge of anger in my chest. I called the police, but this was an old neighborhood with few surveillance cameras, or many were broken. It wouldn't be easy to find out who did it right away, but I knew without a doubt it was Brittany. She was the only one who hated me this much. The next day was Saturday, and I stayed at my parents' house. Lying in bed, I tried to calm my turbulent emotions. The more I thought about it, the more I wanted to kill Brittany. Unexpectedly, Brittany called me again. I swiped to answer. Her sickening voice rang out. "My dear sister, how is it? Did you see the birthday gift I sent to Uncle and Aunt? Let me tell you, this is the price you pay for backstabbing me. And so what if I cheated? My husband still loves me to death. Just you wait. I'm going to return all the torment I've suffered these past few days to you." The next morning, I went out for a morning run. On the way, I greeted the neighborhood uncles and aunts as usual, but found that they looked at me strangely, some even avoiding me as if I were plague. When I passed the community fitness equipment area, several old women were huddled together, whispering. But when I approached, they quickly changed the subject. When I got home, I found Aunt Huang, the neighborhood committee director, had come to our door. She was righteously lecturing my parents about something. My parents' faces were grim, even angry. "What's wrong, Aunt Huang?" I asked, puzzled. Aunt Huang looked at me with disdain and said, "Emily, you and Brittany grew up under my eyes, but you shouldn't break up other people's families. It's one thing to have a loose private life, but how could you seduce a married man? Look, you even caused Brittany to lose her baby. How can you not feel any guilt? No decent family will dare to marry you if you're like this." "Bullshit. My daughter is upright and does things right." My father cursed, using such vulgar language, showing how angry he was. "My private life is loose? I broke up someone else's family? Auntie, is this what Brittany told you?" "Emily, never mind who told me. Look, your door was splashed with paint. Isn't that because people are angry and retaliating against you?" I had already scheduled someone to come and clean the paint off the wall, but they hadn't arrived yet. "Auntie, where did you hear this from? Call the person over to confront me face to face, otherwise, I'll call the police. Yesterday, we were vandalized with paint. Today, they were spreading rumors about me. Did they really think I was an easy target to bully?" Aunt Huang looked embarrassed. "Emily, call the police? Just don't do such shameless things in the future. No need to call the police." I directly dialed 110. Calling the police was the best way to dispel rumors. The police arrived quickly, and from the fragmented words of those old men and women, they quickly found out that the rumor-mongers were Brittany's parents. Brittany's parents lived in the same neighborhood as my parents. I followed the police and rang their doorbell. Brittany's mother opened the door. Seeing the police standing at the door, her face changed, and she quickly tried to close the door, obviously guilty. This was an old residential building, and the soundproofing wasn't great. Even Grandma Sue, who lived across from Brittany's family, had her door wide open, craning her neck to listen to what was happening. "Auntie Bai, did you say that my private life is loose? That I broke up your daughter's marriage and caused her to lose her baby? Do you know that this is slander against me? I can sue you. Open the door. Let the police talk to you. And was it you who splashed paint at my mom's house yesterday? After all, your daughter hates me to death." I yelled at the top of my lungs. "Emily, I didn't splash paint. I just said a few careless words. How can you call the police for such a small thing?" Brittany's mother's slightly panicked voice came from behind the door. "Aunt Huang, did you hear that? Grandma Sue, did you hear that too?" Auntie by herself said she was just talking nonsense. "You can't be. Accomplices. Spreading rumors that I'm indecent. I'm still a virgin. If I can't find a husband because of this, I'll be coming for you." I seized on the loophole in Brittany's mother's words and pulled Aunt Huang and Grandma Sue, who was watching the show not far away, closer. Grandma Sue was usually very gossipy. 80% of the neighborhood gossip came from her mouth. In the end, the police just gave Brittany's mother a verbal warning. After all, she hadn't caused me any actual harm, so they couldn't arrest her. As expected, people are tough with the weak and weak with the tough. In my past life, after I died, they bullied my parents. My parents were honest people, unwilling to argue with them. So they had to let them spread rumors, even causing trouble at school, and died full of resentment. But now, in front of the police, they lowered their heads like defeated quails. After the police left, I bought some fruit and went back to Grandma Sue's house, forcing the fruit into her hands. She beamed. "Grandma, you've watched Emily and Brittany grow up. You must know my character. How could I do something to break up someone else's family?" I said, pretending to be sad. "Grandma, to tell you the truth, Brittany just went out to find a man. I didn't stop her from seeing her old man, so she hates me and says I broke up her family." I leaned closer to Grandma Sue's ear and whispered, "I'll tell you, but you must never tell anyone else." The video of her being caught cheating has been online for days. It's just that you people who don't use the internet don't know. I showed the video to Grandma Sue, and again instructed her not to tell anyone. Grandma Sue's eyes gleamed, and she patted her chest, promising not to tell anyone. I hummed a little tune and went home. In my opinion, telling Grandma Sue not to tell anyone was equivalent to wanting everyone to know. I also wanted to make their family live under everyone's scrutiny and judgment. The baby Brittany miscarried was not her husband Kevin's, but her first love, Ethan's. I only found out after I died in my past life. In my past life, after I watched them drive my parents to their deaths, my resentment didn't dissipate, and I stayed by Brittany's side all the time. I personally saw her secretly go on dates with Ethan after she recovered, crying and saying she hadn't protected their baby. I had been hiring someone to watch Brittany recently. A low-level thug was cheap, only $100 a day. Sure enough, about 2.5 months after Brittany recovered, she secretly sneaked out to a hotel to meet Ethan while Kevin was at work. I quickly asked for leave from the company and rushed to the scene immediately. At the same time, I sent the thug to notify Kevin. Ethan was married. I also had someone notify his wife. Now, in my opinion, whether it's a man or a woman cheating, it's unforgivable. Their wives or husbands have the right to know the truth. Brittany, I just wanted to see if your husband would still believe you this time. Whether he loved you as much as you claimed. Kevin was completely dazed. Today, he had also been scolded by his boss for a work mistake, who even sarcastically called him a cuckold and a loser. So when someone told him that Brittany had gone out to meet someone again, a layer of frost seemed to envelop him, and the anger in his eyes was like a burning flame, making people afraid to approach. He had never hated so much, nor had he ever wanted to kill someone so badly. After leaving the company, he excused himself to go to the bathroom in the mall, but actually went to a supermarket and bought a fruit knife. The cashier looked at him buying only a fruit knife and looked at him worriedly, advising him to live well. He smiled and then said, "I ordered a durian online for my wife today, but there's no fruit knife at home, so I came out to buy one." The cashier was relieved and wished him and his wife a happy marriage. Kevin hid the knife and calmly followed the thug, as if it was the calm before a storm. Brittany and Ethan were meeting at room 504 of the hotel. The thug, disguised as a deliveryman, led Kevin in. Almost at the same time, Ethan's wife also arrived with bodyguards to catch them in the act. And the thug was also secretly recording a video with his phone, broadcasting the scene to me in real time. After the door opened, Kevin rushed in, pinning Ethan down and punching him repeatedly, even picking up an ashtray from the side and smashing it on Ethan's head. Ethan's head was covered in blood. Brittany screamed in terror and hurriedly tried to pull Kevin away. "Honey, don't hit him." Kevin slapped her backhandedly, sending her flying to the side, releasing the stunned Ethan. He looked at Brittany, his eyes bloodshot, the hatred in his eyes seeming to erupt. "Brittany, I treated you so well. Why do you betray me again and again? Is it only when you die that you will finally behave?" Brittany cried, her face covered in tears, but she was still trying to justify herself. "Honey, I'm sorry, there won't be a next time. Don't be angry. I promise I will." Before she could finish speaking, Kevin pulled out the fruit knife from his back waist and stabbed it hard into Brittany's abdomen, blood splattering on his face. He seemed to hear nothing, see nothing, tears silently streaming down his cheeks. Ethan's wife arrived at this moment and quickly controlled Kevin. Looking at her half-dead husband and Brittany lying in a pool of blood, she understood everything. She called the police and dialed 120 for emergency services. In my past life, everyone who had hurt me had received their due punishment. Brittany was first stabbed by her husband, and then beaten into paralysis by her in-laws while recovering. Brittany's parents defended Brittany and fought fiercely with her in-laws, pulling hair and scratching faces. In the end, Brittany's parents were no match for them. They shamefully took their paralyzed daughter home, but Brittany's in-laws refused to let them off the hook. They often came to the neighborhood, pulling banners and cursing Brittany's parents for poor parenting, for raising an unfaithful daughter, causing their son to become mentally unstable and possibly facing imprisonment. Kevin had gone mad under Brittany's repeated betrayals. He couldn't stand the contemptuous looks from people around him. He injured Ethan and was forced to pay huge compensation. His parents beat Brittany into paralysis and also had to pay high living expenses. Eventually, one night, he disappeared. And I, Within these short 3 months, was promoted to editor-in-chief, achieving success in my career. Brittany asked to see me when I got married. I refused. My grievances with her were long over. From now on, we were strangers, and we should just pass each other by. I shouldn't dwell on the past. I should look to the future.